Have you ever wondered just how far humans will go in the name of science? Sometimes, the answer might just send chills down your spine. We're about to dive into 10 human experiments so disturbing, they sound like something out of a horror movie. But they're not. They're all shockingly real. These are the stories that science tried to bury, the secrets that were never meant to see the light of day. So, buckle up, because things are about to get weird. Let's start with a truly bizarre one. The two-headed dog experiment. In the 1950s, Soviet scientist Vladimir Demikov surgically grafted the head and forelimbs of a puppy onto the neck of a mature German shepherd. The resulting creature had two heads, both of which could see, hear, and even drink. The puppy head would often lick the German shepherd's face. While Demikov saw this as a triumph in organ transplantation, the dogs only survived for a few days. It's a chilling example of scientific ambition crossing a serious ethical line. Next, we have the monster study. In 1939, researchers at the University of Iowa set out to prove that stuttering was a learned behavior. They took 22 orphan children and divided them into two groups. One group received positive speech therapy, praised for their fluency. The other group was belittled and criticized for every tiny speech imperfection. The researchers literally tried to induce stuttering in healthy children. The results were devastating. Many of the children in the negative group suffered lifelong psychological and speech problems. The study was hidden for decades due to the immense shame associated with it. Now, for one you might have heard of. The Stanford Prison Experiment. In 1971, psychologist Philip Zimbardo wanted to study the psychological effects of perceived power. He set up a mock prison in the basement of Stanford University and recruited 24 male students, randomly assigning them roles as either prisoners or guards. What was meant to be a 2-week study spiraled out of control in just 6 days. The guards became increasingly authoritarian, subjecting the prisoners to psychological torment. The prisoners became passive and showed signs of extreme stress and anxiety. The experiment was shut down early because it became too real, too quickly, revealing the dark potential lurking within ordinary people when given power over others. Let's travel back to the 1930s for the Tuskegee syphilis study. This is one of the most infamous and unethical studies in American history. The U.S. Public Health Service enrolled 600 African-American men from rural Alabama, 399 of whom had syphilis. The men were told they were receiving free health care for bad blood. In reality, they were never told their true diagnosis and were denied treatment, even after penicillin became the standard cure in the 1940s. The researchers simply wanted to observe the full progression of the disease until death. This horrific deception continued for 40 years, only ending in 1972 when it was leaked to the press, leading to major reforms in human subject research. Ever heard of Project MKUltra? This was the CIA's top-secret mind control program that began in the 1950s. The agency wanted to find a truth serum for interrogating spies and to explore methods of mind control. They conducted hundreds of experiments, often on unwitting U.S. and Canadian citizens. They used hypnosis, sensory deprivation, and various substances to manipulate people's mental states and alter brain functions. The full extent of MKUltra is still unknown because CIA Director Richard Helms ordered most of the files destroyed in 1973. But the documents that survived paint a terrifying picture of a government agency operating far outside the law. Now, let's talk about Little Albert. In 1920, behaviorist John B. Watson wanted to prove that fear could be classically conditioned. His subject was a 9-month-old baby. Albert B. Watson exposed Albert to a white rat, which he wasn't afraid of. Then, every time Albert reached for the rat, Watson would strike a steel bar with a hammer behind the baby's head, creating a terrifyingly loud noise. Soon, just the sight of the rat was enough to make Albert cry in fear. This fear then generalized to other furry objects, like a rabbit, a dog, and even a Santa Claus mask. Watson never conditioned the fear, and little Albert's true identity and what happened to him remain a tragic mystery. This next one is straight out of science fiction. In the 1960s, Dr. Robert E. Cornish became obsessed with the idea of reanimating the dead. He conducted experiments on dogs he named Lazarus. He would induce clinical death and then attempt to bring them back using a combination of drugs and a teeter-tatter machine to circulate their blood. He actually managed to revive 2 of the dogs, though they were left severely brain-damaged and blind. Believing his method was a success, Cornish then tried to get permission to test his procedure on a death row inmate. Unsurprisingly, his request was denied, but the fact that he got that close is deeply unsettling. Let's discuss Landis's facial expressions experiment. In 1924, University of Minnesota psychologist Carney Landis wanted to see if all people have common facial expressions when feeling certain emotions like disgust, joy, or shock. He subjected his students to various stimuli, like smelling ammonia, looking at graphic images, and even putting their hands into a bucket of frogs. The grand finale was the most disturbing part. He handed each participant a live rat and a knife and ordered them to decapitate it. While most hesitated, 2/3 of the participants eventually did it. The study concluded that humans don't really have common facial expressions, but it more chillingly demonstrated how easily people can be pressured into committing a cruel act under authority. Number 9 is Project 4.1. In 1954, the United States detonated a massive thermonuclear bomb, Castle Bravo, at Bikini Atoll. The fallout was far greater than anticipated and drifted over the nearby Marshall Islands, exposing the residents to dangerous levels of radiation. Instead of just a humanitarian disaster, this became a top-secret medical study called Project 4.1. For decades, American doctors studied the islanders to learn about the effects of radiation on the human body. The people suffered from burns, birth defects, and cancers. They were not treated as victims, but as human guinea pigs in a long-term experiment they never consented to. Finally, we have the Aversion Project. During the 1970s and 80s, in Apartheid South Africa, the military sought to root out homosexuality from its ranks. Suspected gay and lesbian soldiers were sent to a secret psychiatric unit. There, they were subjected to horrific cures, including chemical castration and electric shock therapy. Patients were shown same-sex images and shocked until they associated those feelings with pain. In an attempt to reorient them, it was a brutal and inhumane program disguised as medical treatment, leaving hundreds of individuals with deep physical and psychological scars. These 10 stories are a sobering reminder of what can happen when curiosity and ambition are unchecked by empathy and ethics. They pushed the boundaries not just of science, but of humanity itself. Learning about them helps us understand why strict ethical guidelines are so crucial in research today. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey into some of science's darkest chapters. If you found this video interesting, please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for more deep dives into fascinating and sometimes frightening topics. Let me know in the comments which of these experiments shocked you the most. Stay curious, stay safe, and I'll see you in the next one.